All right, today we're stepping into a pretty dark parable. It's about a tribunal, where the one on trial isn't a person, but an entire worldview. And the judge? Well, the judge is a forest that breathes a language much, much older than any law.
So our story kicks off with these inquisitors, right? Knights of the Holy Office, and they march into these deep woods, not just as soldiers, but as, like, architects of order. Their whole mission is to force their rigid structure onto the primal chaos of nature, and they are absolutely convinced they're in the right, ready to tame a world that, frankly, has no interest in being tamed.
Yeah, because here's the thing. This isn't just any forest. It's a living, breathing thing with a will of its own. It refuses to be categorized, it refuses to be baptized. And as these knights push deeper and deeper, the stage is set for a massive collision, not just of swords and shields, but of two realities that just cannot coexist.
Okay, so first, we really have to get our heads around this fundamental conflict. On one side, you have the rigid, man-made order of the Inquisition, built on stone and certainty. And on the other, you have the wild, ancient faith of the forest itself, a faith written in roots and thorns.
This just captures the Inquisitors' whole mindset perfectly. Their power, they believe, comes from dusty parchment, from laws written miles away from the world they're trying to control. They think their institutional armor makes them invincible, but the text shows us what it really is, a heavy stone house they're carrying on their backs. It's not strength, you see. It's a crushing, self-inflicted burden. But the forest? Oh, it's so much more than a collection of trees. It's a sovereign being. It's got its own cathedral of bone-white oak, its own throne made of thorns. It pulses with this superhuman vitality, a life force that just laughs at their attempts to purify it. This is not some passive landscape waiting to be conquered. It's an active, ancient power.
And right here, the core contrast is just laid bare. The Inquisition offers an order built on dead parchment and heavy stone, and its ultimate judgment is this cold, mechanical condemnation. But the forest? It offers a faith of pure life, of superhuman vitality, primal geometry, and a relentless affirmation of existence. It's the artificial versus the organic, total control versus untamable life.
Now, this whole conflict isn't just happening out there in the woods, it's raging inside the mind of one man. We're going to follow Brother Anselm, an inquisitor who certainly starts to crack under the immense pressure of the forest's living truth.
And this right here, this is the key to his entire breakdown. The forest isn't just some external threat. It becomes a mirror, reflecting everything he has buried deep down inside himself. The ancient, thrumming life all around him starts to awaken a darkness he thought his holy office had locked away for good.
Anselm starts to see that his institutional armor, his whole identity as an inquisitor, it isn't a fortress protecting him. No, it's a gilded cage. It's this elaborate prison that keeps him safe, sure, but it also keeps him from experiencing the terrifying, noble, and honest truth of what it means to be truly alive.
So what is that truth? Well, he can hear it. It's the honest sound, that deep, rhythmic thud of the earth's own breath. It's a pulse so real and so powerful that it starts to drown out all the dogma and all the dusty laws he's dedicated his entire life to.
This relentless pulse leads him to this just devastating conclusion, the logic of zero. He realizes that his rank, his title, his whole institutional status, it means absolutely nothing. Zero, zilch, especially when you measure it against the vast, ancient reality of the universe. And as his defenses just crumble, the shadows moving among the trees, they become something more. They become a physical manifestation of his own inner darkness, a long overdue confession of all the pride and cruelty he'd harbored under those sacred robes. You see, the forest isn't just judging him, it's forcing him to judge himself.
In the end, the very tool he prized the most, his intellect, his spark of reason, it proves completely useless. In this verdant absurdity, he sees that his reason didn't lift him above nature. Oh no, it just allowed him to be a more calculating, a more effective beast. What a devastating, total collapse of a worldview. So, Anselm's personal crisis? It's about to blow up into this massive theological showdown, pitting the Inquisitor's God right up against the God of the forest. You have to remember, the villagers' faith is rooted in the physical, living world. They don't look for God in some ancient book. They see divinity in the blush on a cheek, in the flow of a stream. To them, the divine is an artist who is present, not some distant king. This is the living heresy the Inquisition came to stamp out.
And this faith, it has its own icon. Meet the Ucini Christ.
And let me tell you, this is not a suffering martyr on a cross. This is a hero king who went down into the underworld, wrestled with old gods, and came back triumphant. He's got skin like flint and eyes of cold fire. He is the shadow of the Overman, a figure of incredible power and self-overcoming.
This brings us to the final, absolutely shattering contrast. The Inquisitor Knight, he represents the spirit of gravity, heavy, rigid, tied to the past, serving a credulous mob. But the Usiani Christ embodies the spirit of becoming, dynamic, sovereign, forging his own meaning out of the void itself. And this is the vision that just shatters what little is left of Anselm's world.
So after all that external conflict and all that psychological torment, we get to the final judgment. But the courtroom is not at all what the Inquisitors were expecting.
The final tribunal, it turns out, isn't held by God or by the forest. It happens inside of them. The text says they built their own internal hellmouth, something created from the suffocating arrogance and the absolute certainty of their mission. Their damnation, it's entirely self-made.
And this brings the whole story to its central, piercing question. If institutional power is just a cage and dogma is a dead language, what does it actually mean to be sovereign? To be a true master of yourself.
And here's the profound, really challenging answer. True sovereignty isn't about forcing your will on the world. It is the courage to face the absolute worst parts of yourself, to burn it all down, and to create a new self from the ashes of that destruction.
So after their world is completely reduced to ash, this is the stark reality that's left. All the old certainties are gone. All that remains is an existential tightrope, stretched across a bottomless void. It's a terrifying kind of freedom.
And that's where we end, with this question just hanging in the air. When all the external laws and structures have failed you, when your inner world has been burned to the ground, you're left with nothing but a rope over the abyss. And the only thing that matters then is the choice of how you're going to walk it.